Welcome to the Blooming League of Original Podcasts.
G'day and welcome to Thrash and Treasure, the Torture Chamber musical comedy podcast that puts outrageously different music in a locked room until they sort out their differences. Speaking of puts out, I'm Aaron, and I'm joined as usual by the captain of Team Metal. He's a builder, a baker, a terrible joke maker. It's my co-host Evan. How's it going this week?
Oh, g'day. How you going? So what have you been up to this week?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Listening to music, watching the Olympics as usual, and I got my first vaccine. I'm on 2.5G, apparently. I don't buy into all that conspiracy bullshit because I have half a brain.
Yeah, I can say all I got was magnetic.
Yeah, I don't get that.
There was literally there's this conspiracy theory that the vaccines make you magnetic.
Oh, yeah.
Literally things stick to you.
I know what you're talking about. I'm saying I don't get it, as in I don't get these fucking stupid conspiracies.
Yeah, I've no idea where they got it from, but there was literally this nurse who stood up in front of a town hall and stuck a spoon to herself and went, "Look, I'm magnetic."
I saw it, yeah, and it kept falling down, you stupid bitch.
And it kept falling. I couldn't even keep it up.
Goodness gracious me. And I thought I was a fucking moron.
Yeah, she was a nurse. A nurse.
This would have been the same sort of fuckwit that would have drained a swimming pool because a gay man swam in it in 1989.
Yeah,
So
I was about to say, someone did that.
yeah,
Yes.
a lot of people did that because they were fuckwits. That's why. But have you been watching the Olympics?
Not at all. Not even
What?
a tiny little bit. No.
Well, those athletes are busting their asses in dangerous conditions, and the least we can all do is cheer them on and support them. Let's cheer them on. Fuck the IOC.
I would cheer, but they can't hear me.
No, but still, your neighbors can, and they'll think you're weird.
Yeah, no, I don't have time for TV as much. I other than sitting down and watching a specific show.
Yep.
And that's about it. Like, no. And we watch the news. I guess I can say I've seen them on the news.
Yeah.
It'll be so and so's won a gold and so and so's won the street skating and all that kind of thing. Sure, but no, I don't have time to sit down and watch it live.
Yeah. No, look, I have it on, but usually on mute because I'm editing, so I need to be able to hear what I'm editing. And yeah, but I finally caught up on the first episode of Schmigadoon.
Oh, way.
Yeah, I was a little bit worried there'd be too much Dune, but turns out there's just a Schmigadoon. Anyways, guess what?
What?
We have another diva in the studio today, and it's high fives all around. Well, it would be if not for the fact that in 2001, our next guest and I both auditioned for Eponine, but of course, they didn't give that iconic part to the off-key dude with a mohawk. Lifelong regrets aside, in the past 20 years since, this effervescent talent has popped up as puppets Jup Jup and Chatterbox in the beloved Aussie Kids TV series Hi-5, as well as shattering champagne flutes with various productions with Victorian Opera, which saw her take on a Sondheim trilogy, including Into the Woods, Sweeney Todd, and today's jaunty saunter through the park. And she was more than bouquet in the Australian cast of Muriel's Wedding, only to then wind up as a debutante of her own one-woman cabaret Tinderella, which, singing about being single, sounds like yet another role she's stolen from me. So today, we're dragging her through some heavy metal. Revenge is sweet, but this vivacious star is sweeter. Please give a warm g'day, how's it going, to Miss Noni McCallum. Staying safe and socially distant, I hope?
I am so socially
You are?
distant from you. I'm in Sydney.
Yes, you are. We've been in lockdown for the past year. Without being able to perform, what creative outlets have you been finding?
So I was one of the 7 people that worked full-time during 2020 to pay for everyone else's JobKeeper, I guess. You're welcome, Australia. And I found it really difficult to channel creativity regularly because it was not a very social year. It was not a very creative year in terms of viewing anything. And I think that a lot of people struggled creatively like I did. I found myself drawing a lot and painting, and I certainly put a lot of energy into the indoor jungle. But I had planned to write a new cabaret, but yeah, just couldn't quite wrap my head around working full time and just trying to stay healthy.
Yeah, it was a scary time and stressful for everyone. Like, and look, I had no problems myself being creative. It's funny you say you painted. I didn't get that far. I made paper.
Oh,
That's as far as I got. So I've got like a whole stack of recycled paper that I made.
wow. Is that a lengthy process?
A little bit, yeah, because the drying.
Yeah, sure.
I didn't get as far as painting though.
Right. Well, fortunately, you've been gifted another lockdown, and you can get out the paints now.
Unfortunately, now I've got a podcast, so that's going to be taking up my time.
Sounds like you were creative enough for several of us in the last year. So good on you.
I think I was. But since we've reopened, have you been to any shows?
I have. What have I been to this year? I saw Pippin.
Yeah, how was that?
I thought that it was I thought it was terrific. I think that it's really relevant at the moment.
Directionless people?
Yeah, and people wanting to be considered extraordinary, like influencers and this and that, and I really
audience members that clap like this.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really like Pippin. I love the music. It's a show I did as a teenager, an amateur production.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really, really loved it. I thought great cast, super fun show. Yeah, 2 thumbs up from this moi. What else have I seen?
Yeah. And have you gotten into Hamilton?
No, I haven't.
Apparently it's leaving Sydney next year. What the hell?
Really?
Yeah.
Where's it going to go? Canberra?
Maybe they need a bit of culture there, I tell you that.
Come to Perth.
No, it's coming to Melbourne apparently.
Really? Well,
yeah, that's the rumor.
Where? Because you've got Moulin Rouge.
Her Majesty's.
Wait, Her Majesty's?
Yeah.
Isn't there a wizard there? No, that's
the
princess. The Madge. Yes. Oh, okay. Sure.
That's the rumor. It doesn't surprise me.
I thought they would just sit in Sydney for a good 2 years, 3 years.
They did that with Wicked. They announced an exclusive Melbourne production, and then halfway through the run, the tickets didn't sell as well as they thought they would. So they closed the balcony and just had the stalls open, and then they toured around Australia and New Zealand and Asia. So yeah, it was a bit disappointing because I think in Melbourne, because obviously you're from Melbourne, we have the East End district, but it could just be that little bit more.
Yeah, of course.
With just a few more theaters and a couple of permanent shows.
Sure.
Let's get some big billboards up and I don't want to have to go all the way to New York.
I think what Melbourne and Sydney are both lacking is a few more smaller spaces.
Yeah.
We could do with an extra space the size of the Playhouse and an uptown black box.
It's obviously like Melbourne's got a very fruitful theatre industry, but in terms of that district itself, there's not enough within that one area.
Yeah.
Because obviously the Regent's closer to the Flinders Street, not necessarily right near them all, but that could be a hub.
Yeah, absolutely.
An artistic hub. We've got Swanston Street. Why not turn that into a hub?
Yeah, sure.
But you mentioned before you attempted to double in writing a new cabaret. Is there any chance we'll get a follow-up? Maybe Tinderella 2, Grabbing Life by the Ball?
No, I don't think there'll be a follow-up from Tinderella.
Nope.
Certainly since my sexuality has taken a swift left turn since then. Yeah, so I think a follow-up of Tinderella would be probably not attract the same audience, but we certainly will have a follow-up cabaret in the next year or so.
So that awesome pun that I came up with is now completely redundant.
Completely redundant. Repugnant.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll move on to metal because this week you chose our band. You chose
Yeah.
Metallica, and then I thought, well, all right, because I know so much about old Metallica, and we'll go with something new.
Yeah, sure. Like you, I am quite familiar with old Metallica because
Yep.
my brother was like 14 for a whole year at
Yep.
one stage, and we shared our living quarters were upstairs, so I could hear anything he listened to. And I think he was trying to convince himself for a few years that he didn't like musicals quite as much as he did, and he listened to Metallica on his best friend's urging. So this new Metallica was, I mean, not dramatically different, but it doesn't feel as threatening as
Yep.
the old Metallica.
Now, I know, Evan, I don't want to give the game away, obviously being our metal expert in place of Gareth, you're not a fan of this album, are you?
Well, I got to admit, I wasn't very familiar with it.
Oh, okay.
Again, I'm old Metallica.
Oh, so it's a thing of you hate what you don't know. That's very common.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I knew Hardwired.
Yeah.
I'd heard that probably on the radio, but I mean, it's a Metallica album.
Yeah.
You know what you're going to get with a Metallica album. You're going to get a Metallica album. You know, they haven't changed a lot in the last 100 years. But no, I have given it a good couple of listens. And yeah, I mean, it's a solid Metallica album. Like you said, there's no surprises. There's no, big experiments going on. Once in a while, I would love to let Lars sing, let someone else have a go, mix things up a bit. That would be great. But no, there's some good songs on here. There's some good, solid Metallica sound. You can't go wrong, really. I don't hate the album, not at all.
Oh, okay.
I gave it a few more listens, and yeah, no, it's Metallica.
That's Metallica. All right. Well, you didn't sound too enthused when I sent it to you.
Yeah, the first run through was like, oh my god, how every song is 8 minutes long, and it just keeps going and going. But yeah, it grows on you. No, it's a good, solid offering from the boys.
Yep. All right. Well, I've written a review, so would you like to hear it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fire away.
All right. Okay, so we should clarify we did Hardwired to Self-Destruct. When I first saw we were covering Metallica again, I decided to throw away all bias and write down exactly what I heard. And the opening number, Hardwired, sounded like da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But then the sophomore track, Atlas Rise, which went da-da-da-dum, 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 sounds more like an opening number track. But track 3 went dong da da dong da da dong, which sounded different. The next 3 tracks of Act 1 went da 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 dong da dong, but then dum followed lastly by Halo on Fire with its boom 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 ner 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 ner, or however it went. It sounded 80s, and that was pretty cool. Disc 2 started off with a militaristic vibe, and I was like, ooh, hotties in uniform. And thus, my daydreams distracted me from Act 2, Song 2, a song called Man Unkind, or as I prefer to call it, the poor attempt at a pun song. Here Comes Revenge sounded familiar, like old Metallica, but phoned in, which is a shame as it made for a less original take and became more of a cheap copy. Am I savage? Yes. I mean, the song, not me. I'm just being honest. This song was kind of bluesy. Not terrible. Almost. Murder 1 sounded like na 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 da 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 da, which scared my kitty cat Anya. And lastly, Spit Out the Bones sounded more like a dentist drill to the nostrils, and at 7 minutes long, I ran out of Panadol. 2 stars. A pretty meh effort without any standouts that gave Metallica a reputation as masters of songwriting. Now they're trying too hard to appease everyone. New fans, old fans, and non-fans. Everyone but their own creative instinct.
Oh.
I agree. It's a Metallica album. I say that with all the enthusiasm I can muster. Those songs: Enter Sandman, Sad But True, The Unforgiven, Master of Puppets, Ride the Lightning, My Friend Misery, is it? Those are iconic songs that have stuck out through my life, even when I'm listening to Beethoven or Tchaikovsky or musical theatre, Sondheim, Andrew Lloyd Webber, or William Finn. Yeah, so I want them to, they've been going for how many years now? Give us something that is going to be their swan song.
I mean, the fear is that they've already done their swan song, and and they keep trying to recreate it.
Yeah, in the early 90s. That's the problem, is that they are just trying to copy the sound that we know.
There were hints of things during this album, like, oh, that sounds a little bit like that song, and that sounds a little bit like that song. That song that I liked 30 years ago, and you're trying to recreate it a little bit.
I'd be thrilled if they just gave us some dynamics mid-song.
Yeah. The only time they did was the bluesy one, Am I Savage?
Yeah, that they start out at a 9, they get to a 10, and they end on a 9.
Yeah, it is really a masterclass in lead guitar most of the way through.
It's a masterclass in mediocrity, Evan. Sorry, but it is. It's a masterclass in resting on your laurels, on what you know. I mean, this is the band that has recorded with 2, 3, 4 symphony. Oh my God, symphony orchestras by now,
Which was epic.
Epic, yes.
Yes.
We covered that a month ago or something, and like there's a moment in that where F comments on James Hetfield watching the conductor and being all really into him and what he's doing. And I sort of think if they had continued on that path of diving into different worlds, maybe today we would be getting the best Metallica albums ever. But it seems like they didn't take any lessons from working with those people.
No, this is really Metallica light.
It is. It's
going back to really what I said earlier is I'd like to them to mix it up a bit.
Yeah.
Where's give the other guys a bit of a lead, or there's not even a bass solo. Poor old bass player. You just sit down, mate. You can have the next one. Mix it up a bit. Get some synths in there. Get some guest artists in there. Get some guest vocalists. Work with somebody to give some kind of a mix-up, different sound. Yeah, would be nice.
The only thing I can say in its favor, because it doesn't do anything dramatic, I listened to it at the gym while I was running, because the beats per minute for like every song is exactly the same. So you can pretty much just keep it like it's a good solid album to exercise to and just tune out.
Yeah.
But like, to be fair, Hi-5's albums are all the same beats per minute, so that's not like difficult to do.
But they're also being aimed at children, not at metalheads.
Yeah. Either way, they're both great to work out to.
Yes, I can imagine. Look, they've clearly got their market cornered, or their branding down, and that's all good and well. But this is a heavy metal band that has in the past numerous times been called genius. Their Black album is classic. It is one of the greatest albums ever. It was given to my nephew when he was 5 years old. My parents said, "No way." I said, "Yes," because that album in particular is a genius album. There's songs on it, the playlist, like the order that goes in, it flows so darn well. Every song is memorable. It sticks out for a reason. And obviously it's not called the Black Album, it's called Metallica, but everyone calls it the Black Album. But I don't think he's listened to it, mind you. But no, look, I was hoping that maybe they had picked up their act a bit, but no, now I see why people have been disappointed in the past 20 or so years, because
we want bands to evolve. We want them to change with time. I mean, these guys are getting on. They're a wealth of experience and musical knowledge there, and they keep churning out the same hits.
Not everyone can be Kylie Minogue. Some people are Madonna.
Yeah, you can't reinvent yourself every 6 months, I know, but they could try.
Yeah.
No, and because it's not just one person here, there's a whole band of them. You'd think that even if just for one album bring in, I don't know, a cellist, bring in Yo-Yo Ma and do a Metallica and Yo-Yo Ma album.
God, they did. What was her name?
Not Vanessa Mae.
No, it was a vocalist.
Oh, okay. Not Amy Lee.
I'll remember in a minute.
I'd quite like to see them perform with Pink, because I feel like they have the same relentless, always like singing at a 10, no dynamics kind of situation. like it to almost be a competition. Let's see who can win the song.
Who can plateau the longest?
That's right.
You're on the right show for it, Noni, I tell you that. Yeah, no, look, I don't know. It's just meh. It was a meh. I didn't even want to give it 2 stars. I feel like at least half of that is for the Metallica name.
Sympathy
Yeah,
stars.
or branding stars, if that. I think we can close the book on Metallica. Bit of a disaster, I think. Or not disaster, but I mean, I'm sure they've got it in them. I'm sure they do. They have to have.
Well, I had it on at work a couple of times in a row, and I was headbanging around. So
Yeah.
you got what was promised. You got
Yeah.
Metallica.
Maybe that's be careful what you wish for. So
Marianne Faithful.
Marianne, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
But anyways, we'll cut to a quick ad break. We'll be back in a moment with Noni McCallum.
Coming this summer, winter, spring, or fall, the first ever musical theater sitcom, where you go behind the scenes of the latest West End show, the Fosse Forest Ballet.
Where's the important stuff? Aha! £1,000 a week ensemble rate. That's what Mamma Mia likes.
Starring Philip Joel and a West End cast featuring Kerry Ellis, Darren Day, Louise Demon, and Oliver Saville, and more.
It all started in 1987 when I was a jobbing actress working in a diner.
Yeah, it's just I had a really bad experience when I was touring Australia with a wombat.
Darling! Mwah, mwah.
La, la.
How long have I been mentoring you? 3 months?
2 years.
So her name is Henrietta.
The horse. Yes. I've managed to secure you an audition for the biggest, most innovative, and the latest show to be going into the West End. Joseph and his Technicolor Dreamcoat. Think more along the lines of Panther.
Frozen.
You can watch this episode for the price of a coffee. Simply go to www.thefosseforestballet.com. Any and all profits go back to theatre charities, acting for others, and the theatre's trust. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you'll see a grown man in sparkly tights.
Tight nights. Nice. Tights.
Alrighty, you're listening to Thrash and Treasure. I'm Aaron. I'm joined by Evan. And we're also joined by extra special guest Noni McCallum. This week, Noni chose the musical, and she chose a production she did with, well, not the same production, but she chose a musical that she did with Victorian Opera, Sunday in the Park with George, a Sondheim classic.
Woo!
And you did that, was it?
2013, Woods 14, Sweeney Todd 15.
You were the understudy to the Bernadette Peters character, the Dot/Marie.
Yes,
with-
so I played the German maid in Act 1 and then Betty in Act 2.
Oh, good old Betty.
Oh, Betty, yeah. It was super fun.
Was this an original staging or was this a revival of?
No, completely original staging.
Yeah.
I love Vic Opera. That I think that they do really terrific work. They make an effort to develop the careers of young artists, young designers, young musicians. So the design was really beautiful. They had the actual artwork printed onto fabric so
Okay.
that the characters were wearing the paintings as dresses.
Oh, wow. How beautiful.
Yeah, so it was quite unique. Stuart Monder's direction was inspired. Some beautiful performances in there as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, it's funny you say that Victorian Opera nurtured the careers of younger performers. The production of Les Mis that I mentioned in your introduction, and one of the 2 young boys that played Gavroche
Yes.
in that, Brenton,
Uh-huh.
is now one of their repertory players.
Really?
Yep.
Terrific.
So I remember the other one was Eamon George, I believe.
Eamon George, who is still a good friend of mine.
Oh, there you go.
We reconnected about 12 years later, I guess. And yeah.
Fancy that. Because I'd done Bugsy Malone with him.
Right.
Brenton I did acting school with.
Sure.
Yeah. I was surprised when I saw that they were doing Tommy. Well, I guess I wasn't surprised.
They are just terrific at choosing material that can attract a variety of performances and audiences as well. It's a great piece for them.
I will literally sell my nephew on eBay to make sure I am at that show. If I miss out, I will cry, and no one will stop hearing about it forever. Now, Evan, I know that you listened to the 2017 recording, I believe, which our guest Andrew Kober was in that production. Yeah, so he was in the ensemble for this. I don't think he played Betty, but yeah, so what did you think of this, Evan? Because I know this is not your genre and you're...
Oh, yeah. No, I listened to the 1984 original Broadway.
Thank goodness.
Mandy Patinkin.
Patinkin.
Patinkin? I have been saying Patinkin for years, so I have to get out of that habit because I've now realised I'm wrong.
Yep.
Anyway, so yeah, I listened to... This is where this show can trip you up, where he goes, here, listen to this. So I've chucked it on at work without knowing anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
And out of context, it makes no sense whatsoever. The music is really disjointed and jarring. Like
that's Sondheim, yeah.
Yeah, nothing makes any sense. And I'm listening to it and just going, oh, Jesus Christ, this is terrible. What is this? Just completely turned off. Just, oh my God, I've got to sit here and listen to this. How long is this thing? I wrote a bunch of notes purely based on listening to it once.
Okay.
And it wasn't nice. Yeah, I think the phrase, this musical grabbed me by the scruff of the neck, took me out to the backyard, asked me to pick a switch and then beat me around the ears until they bled, was something that I wrote.
I think that's sometimes intentional with every musical he writes, but in a good way, in a you're going to enjoy it way. But anyway.
I then proceeded to go, hang on, this came out in 1984. And I proceeded to make a list of things that you could have spent your money on instead that came out in 1984. And funnily enough, Metallica's Ride the Lightning came out in 1984. Van Halen's classic 1984 came out. Bruce Springsteen was born in the USA in 84. Bon Jovi had his debut album. Not a Bon Jovi fan, but that would have been money better spent. The Smiths came out with their self-titled album in 84. Queen released The Works. So you want to go for a show? Dune was released in 84.
Dune flopped.
Oh, it's a classic.
No, it's a classic now. Giving Dune more money at the time would have made it a bigger flop than it was. Sorry, I have to disagree with that one. Continue.
No, I'll agree the special effects are very dated. Anyway, yes, so Dune was released. Gremlins, Beverly Hills Cop, Nightmare on Elm Street, Footloose, for God's sake, Never Ending Story. These were all things that you could have spent your money on in 1984 that would have been a better time than Sunday in the Park with George. Andy Kaufman died in 1984. His funeral probably would have been a better time. But then thankfully, Aaron went, there's a pro shot, go watch that. I watched the pro shot and it all made sense.
Yes.
Yes. So you cannot listen to this thing without context. It's like watching a movie with the screen turned off. It just doesn't work. But then watching the painting slowly assemble, this thing is visually brilliant. It's just spectacular how it all slowly unfolds. And I saw it coming after they started introducing enough characters. And you're like, oh, I see. He's removing the tree and the nurse coming out and say, where's my tree? That's hilarious. Yeah, and watching the painting slowly be assembled and the story of the unrequited love, missed opportunities, you're spending all your time drawing me and you're not seeing me. Yeah, there's so much in there. And it all came together with this painting. And I was like, yes, there it is. That's brilliant. Look at that. And then it goes intermission. I was like, what? It's only half done. Oh my God.
It's Sundays in the Park with George.
Yeah, it was many Sundays. And yeah, then it goes into Act 2 and does the whole generational story, family trees and, their family history. And it is very, very clever. There's some real lyrical gymnastics going on, certainly with the opening track, Sunday in the Park with George, Bernadette Peters. God, she's good.
Oh, yeah. She's in Pink Cadillac. You'd remember that movie.
Pink Cadillac?
Yeah, with Clint Eastwood. It came
Nope.
out 40 years ago yesterday.
That's a weird factoid to just have off the top of your head.
Mm.
Yeah, Color and Light is a fantastic song that works really well by itself. Everybody loves Louis, which was a funny one. I love that. I love that piece in it where the baker is the desirable profession, because you can't eat a painting. Being a baker of 25 years is like, yeah, we're never out of work.
Oh, I was wondering where you worked that you could listen to metal and Sondheim freely.
Yeah, most days I'm there by myself, or even last night I'm there with one other guy who has no idea what the hell I'm listening to, and he listened to, I think it was the second track. He's like, it sounds like a Tom and Jerry cartoon, and you've got, is it Tom chasing Jerry down an endless repeating hallway, that kind of running anyway. So yeah, I've got this whole 8-hour gap of free audio time. Yeah, it is really handy. I especially love when the painting finally came together and it did the intermission and then starts the second act and the whole cast does It's Hot Up Here. They're having to hold that pose, and just they're constantly complaining about just having to hold the pose. That was hilarious. Didn't expect lasers to be busted out in the second act. I'm like, how does that fit in? And it's after another watch, it's it's the great grandson,
Something like that, yeah.
also named George, doing his own artistic career. And like I said, it's an act in two parts. You can't have the music without the show.
It's very much a performance show, I think.
It needs to be seen. And again, this is one I've never heard of, like, at all. I've never heard any of the songs from it.
Did you know the painting?
Oh yes, of course, know the painting. We did it in high school. And of course, Cameron stared at it in Ferris Bueller's Day Off as well.
Yeah, that's right. That was Chicago.
Which was nice to see that shot. It gives you the scale of the thing. It is massive. And then the more I researched, you find, and just from Aaron talking, and you have guests mentioning it, it's apparently quite a revered, important musical in the musical world.
I'm finding that out still today. How many people come on the show and they say their favorite musical is Sunday in the Park with George?
Oh yeah.
And I'll be like, but what about Urban Cowboy?
See, I find it really interesting, on top of just being very clever visually, as I've said in previous rehearsals. Yeah, I'm the roadie. I like building stuff and fixing things. I've restrung guitars and I've rewired wah-wah pedals. I'll have a crack at pretty much anything. And I love watching a show put something like that together and sitting there going, how did they do that? Watching Hello Dolly's train come through and going, oh, that's incredible. And light posts come out of the floor, and I'm going, that is awesome. Like the engineering behind it, the builders who've had to figure out how to make that work. I love watching that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of that, a lot of that actually going on in Sunday with Park with George.
It actually costs a fortune as well.
Yeah, it would.
Because you have to license those pictures. So if you don't have the pictures, it's really difficult to do it. But half of the budget with Vic Opera went to licensing the set, essentially.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's what I love what you were saying before about the costumes. Like the costumes in the 84 were already excellent. And then saying, oh no, we've taken the actual images from the painting and printed it onto the fabric of their costumes.
Yeah, and the pointillism.
That's taken it to that next level. That is.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff I really appreciate, is that attention to detail.
Well, you probably wouldn't have liked the 2007 Broadway and West End revivals that used screens that just changed throughout the show.
Oh no.
Was that
Daniel Evans and Jenna Russell?
I saw that at the Menio Chocolate Factory.
Yeah.
But I didn't see it move to the West End. I didn't hate it. I think it was still very intimate, which was nice, because I had only ever imagined it to be on a full stage before. But it was a bit more black box.
Okay, yeah.
So the screens didn't feel like, some big shows with screens in the background. Really just feels owning in the set design. But I think it was due to its intimacy, it succeeded a little more because there was detail in it rather than the other way around. Like it wasn't stripping the show of design.
That's a relief. Now, did we listen to Jake Gyllenhaal's performance?
For me,
Everyone.
I only just found out this morning that he did that. I was scrolling through and went, oh my God, Mysterio's done it. You know, and it was funny because I was just explaining to the guy at work. I literally had to explain the concept of musicals. And he's like, oh, you know, they all singing and dancing. Yes, they can all sing. You know, this is what pretty much everyone that you've ever heard of has gone through at some point done musical theater. I'm like, you know, these guys, you got superheroes in Marvel movies. You know, they can sing, they can tap dance, and you know, yeah. And he didn't really get the concept.
How do you go through life not knowing musicals? How a musical works?
I know. You know, I've put the show on the TV again. I've put the pro shot on, and he's watching it for a few minutes. He's like, when do they start singing? I was like, oh, just give it a minute. They'll get there. Just hang on. Jeez. Going back, this is certainly a show that needs to be seen. You can't just listen to it. It makes no sense and sounds terrible.
It's terrible.
Not a fan of the singing. I mean, it's very operatic, and oh my God, does Mandy Patinkin have a voice? Jesus, like he can belt out a tune when he needs to. As I said before, I'm a big fan of him from Dead Like Me.
Okay, yeah.
Ever since I watched Dead Like Me, I fell in love with everything he does. He's just got this way about him.
Eccentric?
Yeah, he's got this delivery where there's so much going on upstairs, but he's not going to tell you what's going on upstairs. You should just know. And then he's annoyed that you don't know what's going upstairs, but he's not going to tell you. It's that. And everything he delivers is like that. He's you know, smarter than you think.
It's a fascinating performance. Like when he's singing to the dog, or not singing to the dog, he's singing with the dog, really, or as the dog. It is very much, I think, for actors a masterclass in holding the attention when it's just you on stage in a big theater with 1,000 or however many people in the audience. That's what I mean when I say it's very much a performance show, because it does rely, like the music is beautiful and it's classical and maybe not really my personal cup of tea. I can suddenly feel no one's ever going to come on my show again after saying that out loud.
I think it's a musical achievement. I think that's what people love it for. It's not that, you know, it represents the pointillism so accurately and magically that I think that's why people who love musicals love it, because it melds that. It's similar to the way Pacific Overtures is not everybody's musical cup of tea. You have to admit that it is just so extraordinarily skillful at melding the kabuki and Western musical themes that like represent that whole show.
You know what? I've never seen it, and I'm not very familiar. I think I've heard it once in my life, and I don't know much about it at all, which is a shame because I have said many times on this show how much I love Japan and want to go back to Japan.
Right.
And love Japanese people and
it's
Japanese
another
culture.
show that I think you have to see.
Yeah.
Man, I would kill to see it.
Yeah.
I would catch COVID to see it in a flash.
Yeah.
I think you need to see it to get that, to really see the marrying of kabuki and music all in one. I did it with Watch This.
Was that at Chapel Off Chapel?
No, it was at Theatre Works, but I don't think that a white girl like me would ever get the opportunity to do that again, and
no.
Rightly so. But a brilliant musical. I saw it for the first time at uni and just was obsessed with it in the same way as when I first saw Sunday in the Park with George on TV.
I remember, when I first saw it, and I was gobsmacked at Mandy Patinkin's performance. Obviously, Bernadette Peters was in it, and I loved her from Annie and
mostly Annie, right?
Mostly Annie, yes. Lily St. Regis, named after the hotel. But his performance in it is a work of genius. It really is, because it's so it's him. I think he's just really playing Mandy.
Absolutely. I saw him in a solo concert in London.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And I would have to say it was sometimes erratic,
Yep.
just so much energy and constantly surprising, but really just such a masterful performer. And as you were saying about Sunday, about how it's a masterclass in keeping the audience's attention, like one man on stage.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's incredible at it.
So, okay, what score did you give Sunday, Evan? We'll move on.
Yeah, well, that was the hard bit because visually it's so stunning. It's very clever, but musically it's painful.
Welcome to Thrash.
So I had to split it down the middle and just go, I want to give it more than 2.5, but I just have to go right down the middle. I'd love to go back to 1984 and see this.
Oh, wouldn't thousands of people?
Yeah, apparently you didn't get the full 2 acts until like the last 3 shows or something. It was only a first act, and if that feels right, you could leave it there too. You could just finish the painting, everyone's happy and goes home. But apparently the second act evolved and they rehearsed it while still just doing the first act.
Right.
And then later in the run, they started putting the second act in.
Interesting.
I had no idea.
You
didn't know that, did you, Noni? Obviously, by the...
I didn't.
How did we not know this? And how did you know this? Who's just, I guess you did deliberately learn about it.
Yeah, I went and did some reading.
Wow.
Yeah.
School on the team musical.
But yeah, I had to split it down the middle. I want to give it more than 2.5 because it really does deserve it. I can see why it's such an iconic musical. I can see why people love it so much.
Yeah.
But to just take it for the music, even after watching it and then listening back to it again as music, it's still really hard to listen to. Even when I can see in my head what's going on, it's still very hard because the music matches the actions. And without the actions, it's just not music anymore. So 2.5. I'm sorry, I have to just stick with my guns and give it a 2.5.
Fine. You've blown my mind here. I'm now all I can hear is bit by bit putting it together, and that song now makes so much more sense, knowing that he was still bit by bit putting that show together while it was being performed. Weird. Well, anyways, we'll move on because obviously that the paint has dried up. G'day listeners, Aaron here. While you're topping up your coffees, did you know that you can support our show and go on a fantastically scary adventure at the same time? Go to www.thetonistantales.com/bookstore to grab your copy of The Toniston Tales, a darkly funny Aussie trilogy about a young boy who rescues injured animals in his spare time and the roller coaster ride he's taken on by a literal fish out of water. Written by me, the village idiot of Thrash and Treasure, you'll come to love Toniston Turnbull and the dozens of wacky characters that he meets along the way. And here is a sneak peek. Crack, thud, the human trips over the uneven ground as the Twanimal blows out the lantern. Watch your step, Cubpaw says a little too late. Why did you put the light out? Bollycosh, an open flame near hay bales? And here I thought you were smart, sir. Toniston agrees with how silly he must have sounded. What are we doing out here? The boy asks as they blindly walk around the side of the house, where they're greeted by giant shadows rising up above them. Unable to properly see in the pitch-black darkness, Toniston presumes they are the 3 hay bales. He looks around. The plains are vast, and the spotlights out in the distance, now a purple colour, seem to be too far away to bring any real light to them. They do, however, look very pretty dancing on the rippling oceanic sky. Stand back, the silhouetted Cubpaw warns with his gruff but friendly voice, clearly able to see in the darkness better than the human, who had constantly refused to eat his carrots. Grab your copy of The Toniston Tales from thetonistonTales.com/bookstore today. Hooroo! Now, what are some of the more awkward places that you've performed?
Me?
Yes.
I once emceed the WA State championship of Monopoly.
Oh my God, fathers.
And it was in the middle of a Westfield.
Oh God, yep.
And I had to roam around and like do color commentary on all these Monopoly games. That was interesting.
Yep. How much did you hate yourself afterwards for that one?
I don't know, it was so unique that it was one for the improv skills, that's for sure.
Mhm.
Another time I was asked to host a like underground poker match for like a company's end of year bonus reveal. So whilst at this poker match, I would like plant little seeds of like where the whole team would be going for their bonus. And they were going to
Yeah.
fly to LA. They didn't know me. I knew things about each of these people. It was kind of creepy.
Yeah.
And it was in this like pop-up saloon gambling house that we created. And the people, because I knew so much about them, all these details, I've been studying them all week, they just thought I was such a creep.
Yeah, I can imagine. Weird.
Yeah, that was less of a pat on the back for the old improv skills. And that night ended, we all had drinks at the end of the night, and this one man kept walking around the room and guessing the women's weight.
What?
Yeah, and that was strange, but like so accurate as well that it was kind of like, well, on that note, yeah. So this guy was just like picking off women and giving them, shouting out everybody's weight. And spot on. Good job, mate. You know?
Godfathers. Now, was that before or after you came out of the closet?
Before. Yeah.
It was?
Yeah.
Saw that coming.
Yeah, that's right.
Bloody men, I tell you.
Nothing turns you like.
Having the weight guessed out of you.
That's right. Yeah. Date me, please.
Yeah.
Mm.
Now, can you tell us a bit about your time with Hi-5, given that it was such a beloved franchise worldwide? Kind of still is.
Yeah. So I joined the cast of Hi-5 about 6 months out of uni, and I was hired to play the role of Chatterbox, who is a very talkative Jack in the Box, or Jill in the Box, as she is around about like a 4-year-old girl who sounds like this. And I was hired to voice and operate her on the series, but also to understudy Hi-5 on tour and do their audience like warm up and play the puppet as well. And then in my second season, after my first world tour with them, I took over the role of Jup Jup as well. Oh, Jup Jup. And that was when Tim unfortunately had a massive motorcycle accident out at Eastern Creek and broke his feet, broke like every bone, like from the knee down. And I was with them for about 3 years. It was super fun. We went to every town in the world that had a theatre we could fill 3 shows a day. Our work in the studio, we were the hardest working team in Australian TV at the time. We would shoot 45 episodes in like 9 weeks or something like that.
Jesus
and
Christ.
The show didn't have ads. It was the only thing on commercial TV without ads at the time, which meant that we had to shoot it really quickly because obviously they didn't have huge revenue from advertisements to make it a leisurely year-long kind of thing. But yeah, it was terrific experience. It was dancing of a level that I am comfortable with. And I certainly made some good friends.
What was your favourite song that you got to perform?
My favorite song, gosh, there are literally so many that I love. I think my favorite song of the week is probably Snakes and Ladders, but I'm a big fan of the all the space magic ones. So Hi-5 Based Outer Space is a real banger as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, what's been, because obviously we're doing a world tour and all that, what has been your most awkward encounter meeting a celebrity?
Oh, gosh. There's been so many. I once met Kyle Sanderlands in the lunch line. We were filming Hi-5 next to Australian Idol. And Tim from Hi-5 introduced me to Kyle, just said, Noni, this is Kyle Sanderlands. And I shook his hand and said, hi, Kyle, what do you do?
Oh my God.
And I knew full well who he was.
Yeah, fair question. No, I good on you.
But he just said, what? And stormed past us through the line. He skipped ahead, which is exactly what I would expect from Carl Sanderlands.
That is
But that was fun.
brilliant.
I met Audra McDonald
Oh.
in London. I served her dinner at a steakhouse, and I did that like, I'm so sorry to do this, but can I have a photo with you? And it's the worst photo ever. There's this light going like halfway across both our faces that makes us look great on one side and just frightening on the other. So it's not a photo I've ever really shared with the public. That's a shame. But she did really like my phone case.
Oh, did she?
She did. She loved it.
This is an ongoing question, discussion on here. What's been your experience with standing ovations?
Standing ovations?
Yes.
I've given many.
You've given many. Now, have you been in an audience where you've looked around and gone, what the fuck is wrong with you people? Like, sit down.
Often.
Yeah. Do you think they may be being given a little bit too freely?
I think, yeah, I do. I do think that often happens, but I also think that like opening nights in Australia, there's this compulsion for over the top applause, laughter, and of course the ovation.
Oh, really?
I'm not saying that it's not deserving, but it's, you know, it's a lot sometimes. Yeah, and really, I kind of need to go to the bathroom by that stage. Can we wrap this up, people?
You know what it is? It's because they got free tickets.
I know.
They all got given free tickets, and so they feel like they have to overdo it.
I know, and everyone's friend is there, and do you know, I'm one of those people that like leaps out into the aisle and up the stairs the minute everyone's had a bow. Like, I don't hang around until the lights come on.
Yeah, get the hell out of there.
Yeah, so if you see somebody racing up the stairs, I'm so sorry, it's me.
Or it's probably me and my mum, because she's the same. She likes to get out before the crowds and get first in line at the toilet.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's been an ongoing discussion, and sort of everyone, well, most people have noticed that it's these days especially, it's a bit too much, or it's being given undeservedly. And the common thing I'm finding, especially among the legacy performers, is that people want to feel like, or you guys performers want to feel like you earned that standing ovation. And I know when I've done a poor job. You know when you've done a bad job one night. Everyone knows in a performance. Not you would have had a bad job. That's not what I'm saying. But you know when you've had it as a performer. We know when we have had an off night.
Absolutely.
And so for an audience to stand up and you're standing on stage and going, no, sit down, like this is a bit too much. I totally can see how it would be too much.
I think though that you can't deny an audience what they feel, and if people feel like they've got nowhere to go but up on their feet, then it shouldn't matter how you felt about your performance, and you're probably just being a little self-obsessed and beating yourself up a bit. You've done your job, and if it brings them to their feet, then you know that's what they paid for, and that's how they feel, and good on them, and maybe give yourself a break. I think that's terrific, and I do think that performers right now, they need all the support that they can get, and if that's rising to your feet, then that's probably the easiest bit of support that we can give them right now.
That's a very good point. I still think tourist audiences are giving them too much, but no, I agree in that, especially amongst the theatre community, because it is very much us that feels more awkward when we see everyone standing up around us, because it typically is a quote-unquote tourist audiences. People like Evan, who don't normally go to a musical but might go to Melbourne and see a show while he's there, that sort of thing.
Sure.
That was the point I was thinking of, is it possibly just a generational change with audiences where you go to a show for the first time and everyone stand up and claps and you're like, oh, this is what we do at musicals.
Yeah.
Okay. And it just catches on.
Yeah, right.
I think it's, some people think it's what they're supposed to do, maybe. And reality TV, I think, has definitely had a vast impact on it, because even like in a top 12 or even in a semi-final performance, someone you know is not going to be getting through still gets a standing ovation, because they're told to stand up to make the performer feel good about what they're doing. They're told they're not allowed to boo and stuff like that, at least from my one experience being in an audience of those things. But speaking of performers, who is one performer that you have seen live that made you say, that bitch, because they were so good? Male or female?
Bette Midler.
Bette Midler? Oh, wow.
I saw Kiss My Brass.
Oh, wow.
At the Superdome
Yeah.
when I first moved to Sydney, and I was working for Ticketek at the time.
Yep.
I managed to book tickets straight away for me and my best friend. And we were like in the second last back row or something. And it was just phenomenal. Absolutely the most amazing performance I've ever seen.
Yep.
And at this stage, she was like 65 or something. No, that's lies. She was much younger than that, but she was old.
A certain age.
She was mature, and she just goes and goes and goes, and it just blew my mind. I'd never seen anyone hold such an enormous audience in the palm of her hand.
Yep.
And then it's the only time I've spent the rent. I was at work, and you know, like you clock in and you open up your computer, and the first thing that was on the daily newsletter was Bette Midler is returning for one night only, and she is slashing all the ticket prices to say thank you to her Australian audiences. And I called my friend and I was like, we could see this again, but like properly. So I messaged my housemate and I said, I'm so sorry, I won't be paying rent this week. And we went again. and this time we sat on the floor, maybe only like 50 meters away as opposed to 10 kilometers away. And it was just phenomenal. She was amazing. And if I could give just a quarter of that energy and presence on stage, I think I would be very pleased with myself. That bitch is what I thought.
That bitch.
Do you know, I have to say, if you want to like get a feel of that, if you want to have your socks blown off by like one performance, I reckon you'll be able to do it this year. Courtney somebody or other, who plays the younger sister,
Princess Anna. Courtney Monswan. That's where I thought you were going with that.
Yes, she is amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I will be saying that.
Be prepared to be wowed. She's just amazing. I mean, the performances of everyone in that show are outstanding, but I just couldn't believe my ears or eyes. I thought she was positively enchanting.
Yeah. I do look forward to, I've seen Gemma Ricks in Wicked and Evita, so I look forward to her as Elsa.
Oh, I mean, you cannot fault Gemma Ricks. She's an extraordinary performer.
Isn't she? Her as Eva Peron was probably the closest I've come to being. No! Bert Labonte in
Putnam Spelling Bee.
Yes. Oh, holy shit. In friggin' Killer. Yeah. And it's funny because I don't typically praise male singers very much.
Right. Well.
I love me ladies, me female singers. My divas. Okay, so I've got one last question because I won't keep you any longer. Obviously, doing Hi-5, you toured a lot. So, what has been, well, would you know what has been the biggest single audience you have performed in front of? And did you need new underwear when you saw it?
I think probably the Superdome, but because it was kids, it was only half full. I don't think they sold the top level.
Okay, yeah.
Otherwise, probably the tennis center.
Okay, yeah.
I have performed to the tennis center full. I think that when you reach a certain size in terms of stadium performing, where it becomes so huge and so impersonal that it's not as frightening.
Okay, yeah.
And especially performing for kids is really, really amazing because they're such an excitable audience. Like it's just such a gift. So to have just thousands and thousands and thousands of little excited munchkins out there it's like it's the energy is amazing. Yeah. But I would say that performing like on stage at the Madge or something gives me the willies much more. Yeah, big
It's an
time.
adult audience.
You can see them.
You can see them
Yeah.
right there.
You can see them, absolutely. Yeah.
Speaking of Her Majesty's, did you ever see the ghost?
I didn't see the ghost, but
I can't remember his name now. Was it Frederick?
Yeah, Federico.
Federico, I think it was.
Yeah, it's the cafe out the front is named for the ghost.
That's right, yeah.
No, I didn't see the ghost, but I did work with Kenneth Moraleda, and depending on how his sciatica is going, you get the same effect. Yeah.
One last question. Muriel's wedding. Now you're involved with that. Were you involved in the workshopping process and developing?
No, I just jumped on for the Australian tour.
Yeah. No worries. And
yeah, so second time round.
yeah, there's a problem viewing the document you sent me, so it's literally still up on my screen.
No, that's okay. I played the store detective, and I understudied Betty and Deirdre.
Okay, yeah. And so Betty was the mum, was it? The mum and
that's right. Yeah.
You're way too young, aren't you? Like you're only like 2 years older than me, or something like that. I think, from what I can gather. And you're playing the bloody granny in Into the Woods. And no, sorry, I disagree. Far too young.
I think that I am actually age appropriate to play the mother of a 21-year-old.
Actually, yeah, looking at some of my friends who have kids at 15, 16.
I am from Geelong, so 16 is usually the age of motherhood there. So
yep, fair cool.
But no, I look forward to understudying the mature aged for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
I'd be more than happy to make a career out of that.
Oh, look, there are a lot of iconic roles in sort of quote unquote middle-aged.
Yeah, you just have to look old enough to play them. That's the problem. Yeah.
Is there one role that you're keen on eventually getting your hands on?
I think that like I've really got my eyes on Mrs. Lovett.
Yeah.
But that's a little way off. And I do plan to like maybe retire on a Thenardier, hopefully.
Yeah.
One day, yeah.
Yes. Evan, did you have any questions?
Funnily enough, I did. I'm looking at your bio now. You've done well, this is the out of date bio, but but apparently you were Minnie Fay in Dolly.
Yes.
Dolly being one of the few musicals I know of and have seen.
Which one did you see?
The God, was it Bette Midler? No. I'm sorry. Barbra Streisand.
You saw the movie.
The movie, sure.
Yeah, I half watched the movie and then went, hang on, this isn't the stage show. Why am I watching the movie?
Yeah, I saw the Bette Midler production.
Oh, did you? Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was just so good.
Yeah,
that train at the start, I heard you mention that. But can we also take a moment for how camp the horse is as it comes on? There's a little horse that clip-clops on.
Is it? I haven't seen it.
Like if there was going to be a spin-off show for anything in that musical, it's got to be for that camp horse.
But,
in the opening number.
But yes, you played Minnie Fay in Dolly. In your production, did you have Penny in My Pocket in the show?
No.
Why? Why do they keep leaving that out?
No, I don't think so.
Was that Magnormus?
Yeah, that was Magnormus.
Yeah, Aaron, I did pantomime with him 23 years ago, I think.
We all did panto 23 years ago.
Yes, didn't we all? He actually gave me lines because he was our musical director and he wrote a couple of songs.
Oh, wow.
And one of them, he gave me lines. So I could have been silent in that whole show, if not for Aaron Joyner.
Oh, thanks, Aaron.
Sorry, Evan, your question, Mini Faye, ribbons. Was it ribbons? What was it?
Penny in my pocket.
Penny in my pocket. That's it. Not ribbons down my back.
No.
When I was having to listen to it, I'm going through the album, you know, the original cast recording, and it's, oh yeah, this is all fine. And then Penny in My Pocket hits, and I'm like, yeah, this is a song. I love this song. Standout song. And then I'm watching the show, and I'm like, where's Penny in My Pocket? And you see the movie, I'm like, where's Penny in My Pocket? And I had to go sort of Googling and find out what the hell happened to it. And apparently it's been put back in now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just sort of curious at how many productions are leaving it out, because it's, in my opinion, it's one of the best songs of the show.
I'd presume they'd have to pay a bit extra for the rights for it.
Well, apparently it was part of the original, the writing of. You know, it was part of the music, but then they had to cut some things, and that was one of the things they cut for some reason. And it's just a travesty. It's a great song.
To the disappointment of metalheads everywhere.
Favorite song of the whole thing, and no one does it.
Like you'll find it's common in musicals, though. Yes, no, I think that's pretty much it.
Great.
Thank you very much for joining us. It was an absolute thrill.
You're very welcome.
And I forgive you for stealing my part of Eponine. You were up against myself and probably about 50 other girls from the theatre company who all wanted that part.
Anna actually headhunted me for that.
Did she really?
She did. She saw me do it in Geelong. And she asked me if I would do it.
Oh, wow. There you go.
But I still had to come in and have a sing.
Okay, that's all right.
Yeah.
Everyone I knew wanted that part. I just wanted to get in ensemble. That's all I cared about.
I was told by somebody came up to me during rehearsals and said, so-and-so hates you because you got her part.
I am not surprised.
Yeah, and I got that about a couple of people.
Oh wow, I'm so sorry.
Oh no, it's fine. You know, it only takes a rehearsal camp to get everyone on side.
True. You know, I've never done a rehearsal camp before.
Oh, come on, mate.
I know I've done that many shows, but I've never been on a rehearsal camp because the shows that I've done have never had one. And I was thinking about that the other day, thinking I've missed a good experience in my life. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah. But no, I'm not surprised because they were very cliquey.
Oh, I think it was a child
that
came up to me.
Yeah,
it was one of the, I think it was like one of the Cosettes.
It might have been Nicole
No, she's so lovely.
You know what? Funnily enough, me and her lived on the same street.
Really? Yeah, it was some child came up. Yeah, and I think that she'd been egged on by other ensemble members.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, like, go on, go. Yeah, cute.
Yeah.
The Am-Dram Mafia.
Yeah. Anyway, so where can people find you on the social medias?
I think I'm just Noni McCallum, all one word on everything.
Now, how many times do you want to punch someone for calling you Naomi?
I get Naomi, I get Noni, I get Narni, I get just so many things. But I don't love Naomi. I don't love Naomi. That's not a name.
No. What about Nomi, like Showgirls?
Oh, Nomi. I get Nomi a lot. Yeah.
So it's not a hard name. Like, it's really not. But it stands out. Like, it stands out enough to be a star name, I guess, if you will. So we've done social medias, and what have you got coming up?
I am about to start rehearsals for Come From Away.
Oh, are you? Oh, wow. So are you joining the Sydney production, are you?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I have Come From Away Mark.
I saw.
You are our fourth Come From Away.
I saw that. Yeah, I listened to your Hansel and Metal this morning.
Yeah, that was a funny episode.
Yes. I went forward a little bit because I wanted to get to the review of the musical. And for some reason, there was like 7 minutes of review where Gareth didn't mention the name of the musical once or refer to any subject matter. So I'm just listening to him like tear it to shreds. And then finally he said, you know, we all know what happens. It sinks. And I was like, I Of course, Titanic.
You know what? That happens
Yeah.
so often. We'll forget to mention what we're doing. I'll get through my review even, and I'll stop and be like, "Oh shit, we're doing this album at the moment." But yeah, no, look, Come From Ways, the only show I've given an ovation to. I absolutely love it, and so
I've heard that from a few
yeah.
people.
Can we get in on the ground floor here and convince somebody to come to Perth?
Patient.
We should have a beer, Evan, if we find ourselves in Perth.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
No worries. So anyways, won't keep you any longer. Thank you so much for joining us, and chookers for the
No
run.
worries. Thanks, fellas.
If I can see it again, I will.
Of
Because
course.
I do love it. I'm happy to have all the Come From Ways on, because that was our first 5-star album on this.
Nice.
So, yes.
Thoroughly deserved it.
Yeah.
Special thanks to Evan for joining me. We'll chuck your socials online, and to everyone at home, you take care, and we shall see you next time. Hooroo. Awesome.
Thanks, fellas.
Like quicksand!